Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
The Chronicles of Straw Hat Luffy by KuramaSageNaruto. At a young age, Luffy accidentally activated his king's haki against the mountain bandits. Seeing the danger that Luffy could pose to the village, he takes the boy to a small island in the East Blue for a year. He teaches Luffy how to use his haki and drops him back at Fushia a year later. OP Luffy. Different Devil Fruit Luffy. I don't own anything. Adios.
Luffy smiled as Krieg's pirates advanced on him as one. He lifted his leg and slammed it on the ground, shaking the ship beneath his feet. Everyone stopped in shock as Luffy walked forwards and punched the first man that he could, sending him flying back into the crowd, causing them to fall to the ground. He smirked as he brought his leg up and kicked it forward, shooting out a blue blade of compressed air that knocked down another line of men. "Keep coming," Luffy demanded as he drew Stormbringer. He quickly coated his blade with Busashoku haki and charged forwards. The Krieg pirates had never seen anything like what was happening. The boy with the straw hat was tearing through one of the strongest crews in the East Blue, and he didn't even look like he was breaking a sweat, let alone getting touched by their attacks. "Watch closely, Sanji," Zeph told him. "This boy is something special." "What do you mean?" Sanji asked in curiosity. "He's AD, Zeph told him. Sanji went quiet as he looked at the straw-hatted boy and noticed he was tearing his way through the Krieg pirates and heading straight for Krieg himself. He noticed that the young man didn't have much finesse with his blade. It was mostly just pure strength and speed that was allowing him to destroy the pirates, that and the extreme lack of skill that Krieg's men possessed. "Pearl, get out here now," Krieg roared as he watched the boy in front of him tear through his men. "Get him in the water. The boy must have eaten a devil fruit. That's the only thing that can explain his strength." "You're an idiot," Luffy yelled. "Is that your excuse for everything? And that swordsman that cut my ship must have eaten one as well," Krieg yelled. "All we need is Redfoot Zeph's logbook and we'll be able to conquer the Grand Line. He has to know how to beat these devil fruit users." "I didn't eat a devil fruit, you idiot," Luffy yelled in frustration. "How did you survive a week in the Grand Line with a thorough process like that? How dare you?" Krieg yelled as small cannon rose from his shoulders. "Die." "Tekai," Luffy muttered as the cannons fired as hit him in the chest. "Ha ha 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 ha," Krieg laughed. "All will fall before the world's strongest man." "You really are an idiot," Luffy stated as the smoke cleared and revealed he was unharmed. "The first crew you met in the Grand Line would have slaughtered you." "Sanji, go out and help him," Zeph ordered. "I want you to see his resolve." Sanji smirked as he walked forwards and watched the strange boy tearing through the Krieg pirates. Sanji noticed that some were getting past Luffy's blade. He stepped forward as he placed a cigarette in his mouth. He lit it as he lifted his right leg. "Party table kick course," he yelled as Krieg's men ran straight into Sanji's dangerous foot. "Pearl," Krieg screamed as he looked around. "Get out here." A man jumped out of the water near Sanji and was shocked by the amount of his crewmates that had been defeated. Pearl is a towering man. Pearl's ensemble includes 2 large iron plates covering his front and back side, as well as 2 small plates with large pearls embedded in them for strong, blunt attacks. Sanji jumped at the man and kicked him in the center of his shield. Acting quickly when he felt it waver under his legs, Sanji brought his foot up and kicked Pearl in the face. "I'm bleeding," Pearl yelled out in shock. "Danger, danger, danger." Sanji watched in fascination as Pearl caught fire and started to smash his hand into each other as he yelled danger and threatening to burn down the Baratie. Quickly noticing the danger that Pearl represents, Sanji lifted his leg and kicked the man in the head, sending him flying back and into the water, extinguishing the flames. He watched as the man slowly swam back towards the Baratie. As he lifted his leg again, he heard a gunshot. Turning to see who shot the gun, he was met with Jin holding a gun to Zeph's head. "Give up or I will kill him," Jin pleaded. "Just hand over the ship." "This ship is the old man's dream," Sanji told him. "Jin, kill me and let him go." "Don't fight back," Jin told him as Pearl rose from behind him. "If you do, I'll kill the old man." "Please let him go," Sanji pleaded. Jin watched as Pearl slammed his hands into Sanji's head, forcing the young man to the ground. He then lifted his hand and delivered a palm strike to the blonde man's chest, causing his to spit up blood. Luffy turned around when he heard Sanji groan in pain, and his eyes widened when he noticed Jin pointing a gun towards Zeph's head. "Sanji, get up," Luffy roared. "That old man would prefer you living than his ship getting destroyed." "You don't know anything," Sanji yelled back in pain. "This ship is this man's treasure." "You idiot," Luffy yelled as he slammed his foot into the ship. "He would rather lose this ship than watch you die, so get up and fight." Luffy watched as Sanji's resolve hardened and he started to get up. That's when the most unexpected thing happened. Jin blurred from behind Zeph and hit Pearl with one of his tonfa and shattered the man's shield, knocking him out. "What are you doing, Jin?" Krieg yelled in anger. "Why did you knock Pearl out?" "Sorry, Don Krieg," Jin yelled back with tears flowing. "I'll fight Sanji." "You better win," Krieg roared in frustration. "I will, Don Krieg." Jin yelled back as he charged the now standing Sanji. Luffy knocked down the rest of the Krieg pirates and stopped to watch the man he wanted as his chef fight. He noticed instantly that the damage that Sanji had taken from Pearl had slowed the man down a lot. For every kick he was getting in, Jin was hitting him at least 3 times with his tonfa. It didn't take long for Sanji to kneel over and spit out a blob of blood. Jin took advantage of that and knocked the blonde-haired man to the ground, pinning him with his tonfa. "Kill him, Jin," Krieg yelled as he watched his first mate pin the cook to the ground. "I can't," Jin screamed in frustration as tears poured from his eyes. "I can't kill the man that saved me." "Fine then," Krieg yelled, "you'll die with him." Jin looked up and noticed his captain was preparing to fire the MH5 poison gas grenade. He was shocked as the man ordered him to not use his gas mask and fired the deadly grenade. What he didn't expect was for the straw hat wearing boy to appear in front of the two in a black sheen to cover his arm as he diverted the grenade over the water. He was shocked even more when the heavily injured Sanji twisted his body out of underneath him and kicked him in the chin so hard his eyes rolled back in his head and he lost consciousness. "You'd kill your own men," Luffy growled as he looked at the smirking captain. "You're scum." "Shut up, boy," Krieg yelled. "I won't be lectured by someone who doesn't even know what a true pirate is." "Zeph, get everyone inside," Luffy ordered as his Haoshoku haki started to flare from his body. "I don't want to hurt anyone." "Everyone inside," Zeph yelled as he felt the pulse the boy was letting loose. "I'll get Sanji." "As if I'll let that happen," Krieg yelled as his cannons appeared above his shoulders. "Die." Luffy lifted his leg, launched 2 small Rankyaku that knocked the cannons off his shoulders. Luffy smiled as the man brought out his spear and charged the boy in the straw hat. Luffy smiled as he slipped through the man's guard and cut the spear in 2. He was shocked when the end of the spear hit the ground and exploded, sending him flying sideways. With a quick geppo, Luffy stopped and ran back at Krieg as he reared his arm back and drove it into Krieg's stomach, cracking the man's armor. Luffy jumped back and smirked when he lifted his leg and kicked it forward, sending out a larger Rankyaku. Luffy watched as the man's armor broke apart and Luffy launched forward as a shocked look covered the man's face. He closed in on him and punched the man in the top of his skull, driving it into the deck and knocking the man out. "Took you long enough," a pained voice cut through. "Let's get them out of here." Luffy watched as Sanji wailed forward with a cigarette in his mouth and picked Jin on a small fishing boat, and Luffy took his cue, doing the same with Krieg. It didn't take them long to round up the rest of the crew and place them on the tight-fitting boat. As soon as it was loaded, they kicked the boat out to sea and watched it disappear. "So are you ready to join me?" Luffy asked in a hopeful tone. "I would be," Sanji replied sadly, "but I have to stay here." Luffy was heading to Kokoyashi village with Sanji and Yosaku on the blonde cook's boat. Not long after the fight, Sanji made Luffy and the chef soup and they faked hating it to get him to leave. Luffy was shocked when Sanji burst back into the room and yelled at them for lying. It didn't take long for him to gather his belongings and prepare to leave, only to be hit by Yosaku and a panda shark. Yosaku told them all they needed to know. Nami had seen a wanted poster for Arlong the Saw and had kicked them off the boat. She then fled with the Going Merry, and from what direction she was heading it looked like she was going straight for his base. So, with that, he got on Sanji's boat and the trio began their journey towards Kokoyashi village. Sanji was cooking for the 3 when Luffy felt a presence floating beneath them. It was on that belonged on the Grand Line and he was shocked to feel it here. A beast rose from the sea and stopped their ship as it hungrily looked down on the 3. In front of them was a giant sea cow. This giant sea cow has a big round nose with a gold nose ring, cow-esque face and horns, green spots throughout its white body. "Stop," Luffy warned as he activated his Haoshoku haki, and the beast immediately stopped. "Tow us." "How in the hell did you do that?" Sanji asked as he watched his captain tie ropes to the sea cow. "I'll tell you when, after we get Nami back," Luffy told him. "Do you really think you can do it, big bro?" Yosaku asked as he stared at Luffy. "This is Arlong, a fishman that was released on the East Blue by a Shichibukai." "The Shichibukai?" Sanji questioned. "The government's dogs," Yosaku replied. "They are pirates who are in service to the world government. Dracul Mahawk is one of them," Luffy told Sanji. "There are 6 others, the tyrant Bartholomew Kuma, the pirate empress Boa Hancock, the desert king Crocodile, the heavenly Yaksha Don Quixote da Flamingo, Gecko Mariah, and the knight of the sea Jinbei. That last one was the Shichibukai that unleashed Arlong on the East Blue." Yosaku told them. "That is the type of fishman you are taking on." "I'll beat him," Luffy told him, "and if he's hurt Nami I will make him pay." "We're nearly there," Sanji stated as they were coming up on the island. "Is the cow going to slow down?" Luffy looked up and noticed that they were too close to the island for the sea cow to slow down, so he informed the other 2 to brace for impact. The ship hit the shore and flew through the air as the sea cow hit the brakes. Luffy laughed as the ship crashed down and they heard a startled grunt and groan once they landed on a moss-haired man wearing a Hawaiian shirt and showing his bandages. "Zoro, are you okay?" Luffy asked as the swordsman crawled out from under the wreckage. "What happened to Up?" Zoro filled Luffy in on what had happened since they set out for the island. As they got close, they were noticed by 2 fishmen and Usopp, and Johnny panicked. They tied Zoro to the mast of the ship and fled, leaving him to be captured. He was sent to Arlong Park and meet Nami, as well as finding out about her allegiance to Arlong. He shocked her by jumping back into the water and forcing her to save him, only for her to kick him after that continuously. He was soon locked up, and sometime later Nami entered his cell and untied him, as well as gave him back his sword. He quickly left the cell and cut through all of the fishmen in Arlong Park, and soon met a dense fishman who took him out of Arlong Park. Once he got to Kokoyashi village, he heard about Usopp's attack on Arlong and the fishman and started to rush back towards Arlong Park, only to be hit by Luffy's ship. With Nami, it had been a while since Nami had fled the Baratie with the Going Merry and arrived at Arlong Park. As soon as she arrived, she had to stop a young boy from throwing his life away by slapping him in the face and sending him to his mother after he vowed vengeance against Arlong for killing his father. She gave him some money and sent him on his way before she walked into Arlong Park and greeted her captain. She left Arlong Park after she freed Zoro and noticed the commotion going on in Kokoyashi village. As she entered, the villagers treated her coldly and she was only greeted by Nejiko and Genzo. Nejiko is an average-sized young woman with light blue hair and tan skin. Her right arm and chest are heavily tattooed. She is wearing a beige sleeveless shirt, blue trousers and purple sandals. Furthermore, she appears to wear pink lip gloss. Genzo is a heavily scarred man that wears a police uniform with short sleeves and pants. He also wears a pinwheel on his hat. The three of them visit Belmir's grave and Nami informs them that she is close to paying Arlong's fee. The three part ways and Nami walks back to Arlong Park, only to notice, much to her shock, that Usopp has been captured. She threatens to kill the long-nosed man and notices that he is about to try and escape with a smoke bomb. She launched forwards with a knife and stabbed him in the gut, pushing him into the water. She looked down at the water as Johnny watched the scene from afar in shock. With Usopp was walking away from Arlong Park after what had just happened. He knew he had to find his crew and hopefully they would help Nami. Everything had gone downhill since they had arrived on the island. He had wandered through the remains of Gosa village with Johnny before a fishman had spotted them and chased them away. Johnny had escaped and found a hiding place. Usopp continued to run forward until he was hit in the face by a fry pan that a young boy wielded. Think Usopp was a fishman. The young boy was stopped by a woman and she pointed out that Usopp was a normal, strange-looking man. He noticed a fishman and prepared to fight him off, only to be knocked out by the strange woman. Usopp then awoke in the house of the woman that had knocked him out, and she explained to him that she was Nejiko and had made the boy give up on his revenge. She then told him that she was Nami's sister and that this is Nami's hometown and that the orange-haired woman was a part of Arlong's crew. Usopp panicked after he realized that he had left Zoro on the ship to the fishman's mercy. He quickly left the house and went towards Arlong Park with Nejiko close behind when they came upon Arlong threatening the village. Nejiko told him that the village has to pay a monthly fee to Arlong to survive, and if they don't, Arlong will kill them. Usopp watches in shock as Arlong lifts a villager up and held him by his throat. Arlong is a large, muscular, light blue saw shark fishman whose most distinctive trait is his saw-shaped nose. He has long, black hair with a widow's peak reaching down to his shoulders under a brown ushanka. He has a fin on his nape, surrounded by his hair, and the gills are located on both the sides of his neck. His Sun Pirate's tattoo is on the left side of his chest, while his own Jolly Roger is on his lower left arm. Other notable features include thin, fierce light blue eyes and a long, angular jaw. Arlong's attire is composed of fashionable, light clothes. He wears a short-sleeved, unbuttoned yellow shirt decorated by many black lightning-like spots, Bermuda shorts which are brown, a purple sash around the waist and simple sandals. He also sports a lot of jewels. He has a golden chain bracelet around his left wrist and 2 golden bracelets around each ankle, with straw-like decorations hanging from them. On his hands are what appeared to be reins, decorated by colorful gems. Usopp took to the roof and pulled out his slingshot using a Namari Boshi to hit Arlong and him into a rage. As soon as he saw the bloodlust in Arlong's eyes, he quickly ran away while some of the fishmen dragged Arlong away and the rest chased Usopp. He was quickly captured and taken to Arlong Park where Nami helped him escape. With Luffy, the Straw Hats were standing together when they heard a man screaming and running at them. "Big bro, Usopp is dead." Johnny yelled in sadness. "Nami just killed him." "I don't believe that," Luffy replied with frustration. "She would," Nami cut in. "I only partnered up with you to get treasure." "We both know you're lying," Luffy shot back as he stared at his navigator. "I'll let you take the ship and leave," Nami told them as she stared at Luffy. "Don't ever come back." "I'm not going anywhere," Luffy stated as he sat down. "Fine," Nami yelled in anger as she turned around and walked away. "We're going too," Johnny stated in fear. "We're not going to be killed." The Straw Hats followed Luffy's lead and sat down on the ground as they waited for their captain to do something. Zoro and Sanji soon started to bicker as Luffy noticed a strange figure advancing on them from the hill. He ran straight at them at the wrong time as Zoro and Sanji just came to blows, causing the hooded man to be caught in the middle. The hood fell off and revealed a bruised Usopp. After yelling at Sanji and Zoro, Usopp told them what had happened at Arlong Park. He told them that he was going to attempt to escape when Nami saved his life. She shot forward and stabbed herself in the hand as she faked stabbing him and then kicked him into the water, allowing him to escape unharmed and undetected. "What are you guys still doing here?" Nijiko questioned as she noticed the pirates. "She told you to leave." "We're not leaving until we get our navigator back," Luffy told her. "She will leave with us." "Fine then," Nijiko relented. "I guess I'll have to tell you the truth about her." "The truth doesn't matter," Luffy stated as he stood up. "I know her." Nijiko just shrugged of the strange behavior as the straw-hatted boy stood up and walked off. As she began her story, she noticed that the green-haired swordsman had already fallen asleep. With that, she told the remaining two about Nami's past, her relationship with Belmere and the arrival of the Arlong pirates, as well as why she joined the pirates. Sanji and Usopp were seething with anger and didn't notice as Johnny and Yosaku disappeared during the chat. With Nami was sitting at the table in her childhood house with a bottle of sake in front of her when she heard a commotion occurring outside. She quickly stood up and exited the house and noticed the strange-looking Marine leading a group of officers and following Genzo. The Marine was Captain Nezumi. Nezumi has the appearance of a rat. He has whiskers and rat ears attached to his Marine cap. He also has brown hair. Unlike other Marines, he has a grayish-blue button-up coat that goes down to his feet, with a black belt and blue shoulder pads. "Are you the cat burglar?" Nezumi questioned as he looked at Nami and then turned to his men. "There is stolen money here somewhere. As Marines, it is our job to get it back to its owners." "What?" Genzo yelled. "You can't do that." "I can," Nezumi replied. "There should be around 100 million inches." "How could you know that?" Nami questioned in shock. "This money is supposed to buy back my village." "The money was stolen, so we have to take it back," Nezumi snidely stated. "Tear everything up." Nami jumped into action as she noticed the Marines touching Belmere's tangerines. She pulled her staff out and slammed it into the first Marine's head and then advanced towards Nezumi until he pulled out a pistol. Nijiko jumped in front of Nami as the Marine fired the gun and hit Nijiko in the shoulder. "How did you know?" Nami screamed in anger as Genzo grabbed Nijiko. "How did you know where the money was?" Nezumi just laughed at the crying orange-haired woman as his Marines continued to pull up the tangerines. Nami knew then where he got the information from and made a dash for Arlong Park. She ran through the village and past Luffy. She soon reached Arlong Park only to hear the fishman laughing. "You sent him, didn't you?" Nami yelled in frustration. "You were never going to fulfill your deal." "I never broke the deal and it's not my fault if you lost your money," Arlong mocked. "I guess you just have to start again." Nami turned back around and ran back towards her village with tears freely flowing from her eyes as she thought about what the fishman just did. He was never going to let her go. She entered her village and noticed that the villagers all had weapons in their arms and Genzo rallying the villages. "What are you doing?" Nami asked with tears in her eyes. "We know the truth," Genzo told her. "We knew the moment you returned and we know what he just did." "I can do it again," Nami cried. "Don't throw your lives away." "You can leave," Genzo told her as he smiled at her. "That's why we never told you." "But you're going to die," Nami cried out. "I know," Genzo replied, "but we can't let you handle all of our problems. Villagers, let's go." The villagers charged past Nami as the navigator fell to her knees and started to cry even harder, knowing that the villagers were going to die. She grabbed the knife from her belt and bowed above her should and started to stab the tattoo on her arm while screaming in pain until she felt a hand stop her. She noticed that Luffy still hadn't left the island as he stared down at her. "Why are you still here?" Nami screamed. "Just leave." "Ask," Luffy stated as he stared at her. "Leave, they're going to kill you as well," Nami pleaded. "Just ask," Luffy stated once again. "Please, please," Nami pleaded, "save them." "Let's go," Luffy screamed in anger as the rest of the crew appeared behind him and he placed his straw hat on Nami's head. "Look after my treasure." Nami watched in shock as the boy walked forward with the rest of the crew and headed in the direction of Arlong Park. The villagers of Kokoyashi were surrounding the gates of Arlong Park and trying to force their way in. Their path was blocked by two bruised and determined bounty hunters that were crying tears of pain and anger. They were angry with themselves for jumping to conclusions about Nami, and after hearing her story and realizing she wasn't guilty, they decided to make up for their actions. The way they decided to do that was to take out the Arlong pirates, so they charged into Arlong Park and attempted to take the 20 million belly fishman's head. The only problem with that was that the fishmen were too strong. The bounty hunter duo were quickly beaten up and thrown out of Arlong Park, and that was when they realized that only those people could save this island. "We can't let you go inside," Johnny told them. "You'll all just die." "Just wait," Yosaku stated. "They will be here soon." "They?" asked Genzo. "Nami's crewmates," Johnny told the villagers. "They will be here to bring vengeance." "But no one can bet the fishmen," one of the villagers yelled in a frightened voice. "They can," Yosaku told them with conviction as he noticed the four young men walking towards them. "Now move, they're here." The villagers parted as the four members of the Straw Hat crew walked by them as the villagers spoke in hushed voices. They were shocked that the bounty hunter duo believed these four could defeat the pirates that had been holding their village hostage for the past 10 years. The crowd of villagers watched in awe as the black-haired boy leading the small crew walked straight up to the gates of Arlong Park and blew them off their hinges with a single punch. The fishmen looked on in shock as a black-haired boy walked through the destroyed gate and glared at Arlong. Luffy keeps walking as Arlong and the rest of the fishmen look at him in surprise. It only takes a few seconds for the Arlong pirates to break out of their stupor as two tried to attack Luffy only for him to slam his fists into their skulls and knock both of them out. "Are you Arlong?" Luffy asked as the angry could be seen in his eyes. "I am," Arlong sneered as he looked at Luffy, "and what is a puny little human like you doing around here?" Arlong is a large, muscular, light blue saw shark fishman whose most distinctive trait is his saw-shaped nose. He has long, black hair with a widow's peak reaching down to his shoulders under a brown ushanka. He has a fin on his nape, surrounded by his hair, and the gills are located on both the sides of his neck. His Sun Pirate's tattoo is on the left side of his chest, while his own Jolly Roger is on his lower left arm. Other notable features include thin, fierce light blue eyes and a long, angular jaw. Arlong's attire is composed of fashionable, light clothes. He wears a short-sleeved, unbuttoned yellow shirt decorated by many black lightning-like spots, Bermuda shorts which are a purple sash around the waist and simple sandals. He also sports a lot of jewels. He has a golden chain bracelet around his left wrist and two golden bracelets around each ankle, with straw-like decorations hanging from them. On his hands are what appear to be rings, decorated by colorful gems. "I'm here to make you regret making my navigator cry," Luffy yelled in rage as he slammed his fist into Arlong's face and sent him flying across Arlong Park and through a wall. "He hit Arlong," one of the fishmen muttered in shock. "Don't worry, there are only 4 of those weak little human," a fishman ordered. "Hatchin, summon him." Hatchin, being an octopus fishman, has 8 appendages and an octopus-like face. He has pink skin and gray hair styled with 5 spikes. He has a muscular build and has suction cups on his 6 arms, which he can use to cling onto walls. Hatchin has a tattoo in the shape of a sun on his forehead, which is to represent that he was a part of the Sun Pirates. While most fishmen have webbed hands, octopus fishmen and women do not. He wears a striped outfit. "Okay, Karubi," Hatchin replied as he turned his back on the group. "Chu, let's help take out those weak beings." Karubi has the typical appearance of a martial artist, with a dark blue gi and a black belt. His hair is tied into a straight ponytail. His Sun Pirate's tattoo is on the right side of his chest. Chu is muscular, blue-skinned, and has thick lips. His Arlong Pirate's tattoo is seen on his right shoulder. He wears a necklace, a striped blue vest, dark brown leather pants, and sandals. On it, the thick-lipped fishman replied before he got hit in the eye by an egg. Chu turned to the perpetrator in rage as he noticed Usopp standing there with his slingshot and shaking knees. With an all-crap, Usopp turned on his heels and bolted back out of the gate only to be followed by Chu, who stopped by the mass amount of villagers until he once again received an egg to the head. The fishman once again began his pursuit of the long-nosed pirate that had been shotting eggs at him. Karubi rushed forward in an attempt to take out the blonde-haired pirate only for his blow to be blocked by a single leg. Sanji smirked at the blue fishman and jumped backwards as he felt Karubi pushing forward. He immediately knew that this may be a hard battle. Zoro unsheathed his Wado Ig and charged at Hatchin as the fishman blew into a horn that sounded throughout the area. As Zoro went to deliver a slash, he felt an excruciating pain flood his chest and his blade being blocked by Hatchin. "It's the monster," one of the villagers yelled as Momu appeared from the water. "What do we do?" Luffy looked up and took in the sight of the sea cow. With a smirk, Luffy looked up at the sea beast and unleashed a wave of his Haoshoku haki, freezing it in its path and knocking out all the remaining fishmen that weren't in battles. Luffy walked forwards and sat down on the seat that Arlong was sitting on and started to watch his crew fight. With Zoro, Zoro could feel the pain coursing through his body as he stared at the strange-looking fishman in front of him. The octopus fishman had quickly gotten his 6 blades and had been mocking Zoro about his strength. Zoro held out Wado Ig and gritted his teeth in pain. He knew his body would hurt him more after this battle, but if it was for the crew he would handle it. Zoro could see his opponent go blurry as the man attacked him with his 6 blades. Zoro was struggling to stop the advancing fishman with his single blade. He was slowly receiving more and more. His wounds were affecting him worse than he ever thought they could. As Hatchin approaches the green-haired swordsman for a final attack, he heard a yell, the swish of 2 blades flying through the air. A smirk crossed Zoro's face as the swords closed in on him. Hatchin was preparing to deliver his finishing blow when Zoro caught both swords and blocked the fishman's attack. The fishman then opened his 6 swords using the superior power granted to him. This caused Zoro's guard to break and allowed Hatchin to headbutt him in the gut. As Zoro went flying back, he spat out blood and his Hawaiian shirt tore off, revealing his wounds to the shocked villagers and fishman. Zoro smirked at the octopus fishman and charged him. He was quickly thrown into the air as the octopus below began to spin around, creating a buzzsaw-like effect. Hachin bragged as Zoro fell down towards what looked like certain doom. Toro Nagashi, Zoro whispered as he fell down. Zoro fell into Hachin's 6 blades and used Johnny and Yosaku's blades to block all of the fishman's attacks. He was continuously twisting his body, aggravating the wounds even more as he closed in on Hachin and cut him with Wado Ig. "Oh, you bastard," Hachin screamed as his hands and chest began to bleed. "How did you do that? You should be dead." "I need to finish this," Zoro whispered through gritted teeth. "Toragari." A tiger's head seemed to appear behind Zoro as he launched forward, much to Hachin's shock. He had his 2 blades beside the one in his mouth as he was closing in on Hachin. As he got close to Hachin, he swung his blade him as the fishman's chest received 3 large cuts and he fell to the ground, thinking of the demon of a human that he was fighting. "That took too long," Zoro said to himself as he coughed up blood and fell to the ground. With Sanji was standing across from the blue fishman with a frown on his face as he lit up a cigarette. The fishman in front of him had been the cause of so much pain for their navigator, and he was about to repay that pain back tenfold. He wasn't going to let this fishman escape, and he definitely wasn't going to let him get away with hurting Nami. "What do you think you can do, human?" Kurubi mocked. "Fishmen are 10 times stronger than you puny humans." "I hope that wasn't all you had," Sanji replied, speaking about Kurubi's first attack, "because if it is, you must be the weakest of your kind." "What did you say?" Kurubi roared in anger. "Let's see if you can take this. Hyakume Gawara Saiken." The fishman launched forward as he pulled his fist back and then launched it forward at Sanji. The cook of the Straw Hat crew got his leg up in time to block the powerful blow of the fishman, but he was forced back a few meters. "That's still weak," Sanji stated as he shook his leg. "Let me show you something, Collier." Sanji shot forwards and closed the gap between him and Kurubi. He quickly lifted up his right legs and then kicked the fishman in the neck and forced him into the ground. "You're not as strong as we thought you were," Sanji stated as he looked down at Kurubi. "I guess this is what happens when you fight on land." "Damn you," Kurubi yelled in frustration. "Wantojiri." Sanji was forced to jump backwards as Kurubi attempted to slam his arm fin into Sanji's neck. While the blow didn't hit the blonde in the neck, it still cut him across the suit and caused a swallow cut across his chest. "See, you humans bleed so easy," Kurubi mocked. "This is why we will kill you all and then make Nami continue to work for us. We may even kill her village just to show her the consequences for their actions." "I've had enough of this," Sanji yelled in anger. "Have fun not being able to walk." Sanji launched forward at the fishman with a sadistic smirk across his face. He quickly launched a jigot, delivering a sweeping kick to the fishman's kneecaps and sending him flying into the air. He followed that up with a poitrine, as he delivered a series of kicks to Kurubi's chest and sent the fishman flying higher. A coatlet followed up that attack as Kurubi fell back towards the ground. Sanji dropped down into a one-handed handstand and delivered a kick to the ribs. A cell came next as Sanji used the momentum of his kick to spin around and delivered a brutal blow to the lower back of the fishman. Apal came next, as Sanji quickly kicked the fishman downwards and into the ground. As the fishman took his next breath, Sanji lifted his leg and finished it with a brutal collier, knocking the fishman out as he spat out a gob of blood. "Not as strong as I thought they would be," Sanji muttered as he watched Zoro finish his opponent and took a drag from his cigarette. "Finish this, Captain," with Usopp. Usopp was running for his life. He didn't know what he was thinking when he antagonized that fishman. He was terrified of what would happen once the fishman caught up to him. He was terrified of what the fishman would do once he caught up to him. He had heard that they had 10 times the strength that a normal human possessed. Most people would call him a coward, but he just thought he had a healthy appreciation for living. He knew that was why he told Kaya those stories and why he joined Luffy's crew. He wanted to be a brave warrior of the seas, but for some reason his cowardice kept rearing its head. He envisioned himself standing as the hero in those stories, the brave man who fought against all odds and won, a man who feared nothing. With that in mind, Usopp stopped in his tracks and turned around. He pulled out his slingshot and prepared to deal with one of the fishmen who caused Nami so much pain. The fishman was closing in on him as he loaded a lead ball into his slingshot and pulled it back. He may be a coward, but he was an excellent sniper. "Namari Boshi!" Usopp screamed as he shot out the small lead ball at Chu. Usopp watched in anticipation as the lead star closed in on its target. A smile flashed across his face as the lead star struck Chu in the face. Usopp had thought the star would deal significant damage but looked on in shock as the fishman kept advancing on him with a look of distaste. At that moment Usopp felt his cowardice come back. He knew that his knees were trembling and could hear the faint laughter of the fishman before he was struck with a blow of water. He fell to the ground and slipped his hand into his pouch, quickly covering his chest with ketchup. Maybe today wasn't the right day for him to find his spine. He stayed completely still and didn't make a sound as the fishman made a dismissive comment about him and kicked him in the gut. It didn't take long for Chu to decide he was dead and leave back towards Arlong Park where his friends were fighting. That thought struck a chord with him. His friends, the people who protected his village when he wasn't strong enough. The people he had begun his adventure with, the people he had left with to help him become a brave warrior, to become a man that could stand eye to eye with his father. Memories flashed through his mind. Luffy fighting for his village. Zoro taking on the strongest swordsman in the world and gaining the mont's respect, and the tears that Nami cried as she stabbed herself in her own arm. Usopp rose to his feet once those thoughts finished. He'd rather die here than let that fish man hurt one of his crewmates. He reached into his pouch and pulled out another lead star. He had a plan in mind and he only hoped it would work. The pain from his chest flared as he pulled back his slingshot and launched the lead pellet at Chu. The fish man didn't even flinch as it hit him in the back of the head. He did turn around quickly and give Usopp a sinister smirk. "I'm not finished with you yet," Usopp yelled in some form of confidence. "I won't let you lay another hand on my friends." "How cute," Chu said snidely. "You think a little human can hurt a superior fishman?" "I don't think I can hurt you," Usopp yelled, suddenly being filled with confidence. "I'm going to break you." "I'd like to see you try," Chu laughed as he saw a bottle of booze flying at him. With one quick motion he caught it and laughed harder. "What are you planning to get me drunk?" "No, Namari Boshi," Usopp muttered as he shot a lead star at the bottle of booze. It exploded and covered Chu in the liquid that was inside. Alcohol is combustible. "What?" Chu screamed, suddenly afraid of what was about to happen. "Can Boshi," Usopp yelled as he shot out a pallet that caught fire and hit Chu. He was shocked at the screams of pain that came from the fishman, but then he realized his mistake. He lit the fishman on fire near a pond. The fishman soon noticed it as well and jumped into the pond, stopping the fire that was lit on his body. Usopp panicked as Chu rose from the water with second-degree burns covering his body. He glared at Usopp as he sucked up the water from the pond and spat out a glob of water that Usopp had to dodge. Usopp retreated back behind the trees near him and watched the angered Chu destroy the trees nearby with globs of water. He reached into his pouch and felt the gift he received from his father. The gift that he never wanted to use. He had promised himself it would only be used as a last resort. He pulled it out to reveal an old flintlock that was kept in immaculate condition. This was the pistol that his father left home with, the pistol that he begun adventuring with. Usopp loaded the pistol with one bullet. He knew that was all he would need. This fight would be over in one shot. He would finish this and this fishman would never hurt one of his friends again. He quickly rolled out of his cover and took aim. He pulled the trigger and watched as the bullet left his gun. He watched it travel the distance in seconds and enter the shocked fishman's skull. Chu crumbled to the ground as Usopp watched in shock and then threw up. He'd never killed anyone before. Earlier with Luffy, Nami had arrived shortly after Zoro and Sanji had begun their fights. She was shocked as the two beat down two of Arlong's strongest subordinates. That wasn't what drew her attention though. Her captain was standing across from Arlong and giving him the angriest glare she had ever seen. Arlong seemed to be unfazed by the look, but she noticed that a look of sheer panic crossed his face as Karubi and Hachin fall to the attacks of the crew members of the boy in front of him. "Guess I'll have to fight," Arlong sneered as matched Luffy's glare. "I guess they got rusty." "No, they were just weak," Luffy told him bluntly. "That's why you're hiding in the weakest of the blues. You didn't expect anyone to be able to fight you. And you think you can?" Arlong laughed. "You think you can stand up to a fishman?" "I know I can," Luffy replied as he shot forward and punched Arlong across the jaw. Luffy watched as Arlong was flung backwards and into the wall of Arlong Park. He quickly rushed forward and kneed the fishman in the stomach, causing him to kneel over in pain. He quickly reared his fist back again and punched Arlong in the face, sending him into the building. Luffy quickly followed the shark fishman into the building and kicked him into the air, sending him to the top floor of the tower. The young pirate smirked at his opponent and jumped after him, landing in a small room with a desk and chair that is covered in paper. Luffy looked around as noticed that on the paper maps were drawn and the pen was covered in blood. "Shahahaha." Arlong laughed as he got to his feet and noticed what Luffy was looking at. "This is what I use that bitch for. This is what she is made for." "What did you just say?" Luffy asked in anger. "You'll never know how to use that orange-haired bitch like me." Arlong laughed. "You're dead," Luffy screamed as he dashed over to Arlong and kicked him on the shoulder, forcing him back downstairs. Luffy jumped through the roof and watches as Arlong dropped to the floor. He reared his leg back and launched out multiple Rankiaku. Luffy smiled as his move cut the building into pieces and it fell to the ground as he floated above it. He dropped back to the ground when as soon as the whole building collapsed and waited for Arlong to rise out of the debris. Luffy watched as the fishman rose and glared at the young pirate. His eyes were now bloodshot. Luffy could feel his bloodlust radiating off him. He quickly unsheathed Stormbringer and blocked the dart-like move from Arlong. His sword was pressed against the fishman's long nose. "You know I did make a promise," Luffy said darkly. "That nose you have so much pride in won't be attached to your body for much longer." Arlong's eyes widened in shock as Luffy coated his blade with Busashoku haki. Arlong stumbled back as he realized the power that the lowly human in front of him possessed. As Arlong stumbled vantage of the opening and swung his blade as hard as he could, causing the blade to catch fire and cut through Arlong's nose like butter. As soon as the sword cut of the nose, it cauterized the wound and made Arlong scream out in pain and gasps of horror to come from the crowd. A dark smile appeared on Luffy's face as he watched Arlong stumble backwards. This wasn't how he would normally handle a fight, but this monster in front of him had hurt his friend and laughed at her pain, and for that he needed to pay. Luffy sheathed his blade as he prepared to use his strongest move, a move that he promised his grandfather that he would only use in certain circumstances. "This is finished," Luffy told Arlong. "This is my most powerful move, my most painful one, and you're going to be the first person to experience it." "Rokuogan," Luffy yelled. The young pirate had both of his fists right in front of Arlong. As soon as he pushed forward, a devastating shockwave was shot through Arlong and his body, causing the fishman to drop to the ground. Luffy stood over the defeated and smirked down at him. He had hurt the man that had hurt his friend. "Nami, you're our friend, right?" Luffy yelled out with sweat glistening his body. Of course, Nami yelled back with tears pouring out of her eyes, "We will always be." "He did it," Genzo muttered in shock. "We are free. Tell everyone we are finally free." "Stop right there," an arrogant voice yelled. "I will be taking the treasure and the bounty on Arlong's head as well as the claim to his defeat." "You will do no such thing," Genzo yelled. "You Marines did nothing for us." "It doesn't matter," Nezumi stated. "We're the Marines, we do as want." "Fuck off," Nami roared as she jumped forward and slammed her staff into the Marine captain's head. "This is our island." "Nami," Luffy cut in. "Watch this." Luffy looked at the rest of the Marines and smirked at them. He was ready to take them all, but he decided to show off. With a quick burst of Haushoku haki, the rest of the Marines crumbled to the floor and the Marine captain stared at him in shock. "Get out," Luffy shouted as the captain crawled away in retreat. "I'll see that you have a bounty on your head," Nezumi yelled in embarrassment. It didn't take long for the Marine captain to reach his ship and get to the transponder snail. With a quick dial, he was talking to another Marines. "I need a new bounty posted," Nezumi yelled, "on a Monkey D. Luffy. He defeated Arlong and then my crew without a scratch. The kid is a monster." "Will do," the Marine on the other side of the transponder snail stated as he hung up. "Now he will pay," Nezumi chuckled. One day later. The village had been partying ever since the Straw Hats had beaten the Arlong pirates. Never in their life did the village think it would be pirates that saved them. They always thought the Marines would finally find out Arlong and send some real help. Luffy had been enjoying the party before he had followed the man that Nami had looked at like a father to a grave. "This is her grave, isn't it?" Luffy asked as he looked down. "I'm sorry for your loss." "She'd like you, kid," Genzo told him. "I know I don't have to tell you this, but look after Nami. Make sure that nothing happens to her and that she doesn't lose her smile." "You know I will," Luffy told him. "I'm going to make sure she is always happy." "You're a good kid," Genzo stated. "Now get back to that party." Luffy left the grave as Genzo continued to look at it with a sad smile as he remembered Nami when she was just a little baby and why he started to wear the pinwheel. With a deep sigh, Genzo bent down and took the pinwheel off his hat and placed it in the ground next to Belmir's grave. He knew that with the Straw Hats he wouldn't need the pinwheel to make the orange-haired teen laugh and smile. One day later. "Are you sure?" Zoro asked as Johnny and Yosaku stood in front of him. "You can keep traveling with us." "I think we're going to stay here for a while, big bro," Johnny replied with tears flowing. "We'll help out around the village and start hunting bounties again." "We'll miss you, big bro," Yosaku yelled as he jumped at Zoro. "Good luck." "I guess I'll see you both around," Zoro stated as he jumped onto the Going Merry. "Good luck out there." "Where's Nami-chan?" Sanji asked as he dashed around the ship. "I can't find her anywhere." "She told us to wait here," Luffy told him. "She's just arrived." "Set sail," Nami ordered as she ran through the crowd of people waiting for her. The Straw Hats quickly jumped into action and began to set sail as Nami approached the ship. As she dashed through the crowd, the confused villagers tried to stop her but couldn't. She reached the dock in no time and with a small jump landed on board with a large smile as she turned around. "See you guys later," Nami yelled as she pulled up her shirt and the villagers' wallets fell to the deck. Nijiko and Genzo stood at the front of the crowd as they bickered about the orange-haired witch. They both had large smiles on their face. It was then that Nijiko noticed that Genzo didn't have the pinwheel on his hat. When she questioned him about it, she just gave him a small smile and told her it wasn't needed again. "If you keep increasing your price, I won't buy the paper anymore," Nami warned the pirates as she took the paper from it and gave it some money, always increasing their price. "Why are you even arguing about the price?" Usopp asked her. "You have plenty of money now." "Yes, but that money's for me now," Nami stated as her eyes turned into belly signs, "and I get to spend it however I want." Usopp nodded his head at that statement. He guessed that after all the years of saving money for all these years and not spending it on herself granted her this newfound love. As he turned away and continued to work on new types of ammo for his slingshot, he heard a loud scream. He quickly turned back to Nami and noticed that the blood had left her face. She was looking down on the deck of the ship where she had dropped the paper and spilled the posters that it contained. He quickly got up to see what she was scared off. As he looked at the photos, his eyes widened, and he picked up one. "No way," Sanji stated as he looked over the long-nosed pirate's shoulder. "East Blue Marine Headquarters, we have to do something about this boy," one of the Marines yelled. "Captain Nezumi and Lieutenant Full Body have demanded that bounties be put on his head. Add what he did to all the big names in the East Blue, First Buggy the Clown, then Don Krieg and finally Arlong, one of the Marines stated, and how brutal he was with the fishman. Also, Arlong's wound looked cut and cauterized at the same time. Another Marine yelled, and how he escaped each fight with minimal damage. I propose a bounty of, the head Marine in the East Blue declared, much to the shock of the rest of the room, although they agreed with him soon after. Moby, Ace, one of the Whitebeard pirates said, you said your brother's name was Luffy. Yeah, why? Ace asked in confusion. I think you're going to want to look at this, the pirate said as he handed Ace the wanted poster. Straw Hat Luffy, Ace said as he read the name. The photo made his childish little brother look intimidating, so he already got a bounty. Look at it, the pirate told Ace. Huh? Ace said. Then he looked at the bounty and his eyes widened in shock. Pops, look at this. The Whitebeard pirate could only sweat drop at the actions of their second commander as he ran off looking for their captain. He thought that Ace would worry a bit about his little brother, but he guessed that he knew Luffy better than anyone. Still, it was a weird bounty. A small island in the New World. A ship, one of the red hair pirates muttered to himself. Oh shit, someone wake up the captain, Hawkeye is here. I'm on it, another yelled as he ran into camp, Captain wake up. Be quiet, Shanks stated as he sat, that party is still affecting me. Hawkeye is here, the pirate told Shanks. Old Haki, Shanks whispered with a smile. I told you never to call me that, Mahawk stated as he walked through the red-haired pirates' camp. I thought you should know something. What is it this time? Shanks asked. You once told me about a young boy in the East Blue that you trained and gave your hat to, Mahawk said. Luffy, Shanks told him as Mahawk nodded. Hey guys, I think old Haki has meet Luffy. Little Luffy, Usopp stated as he sat up and murmuring of Luffy could be heard around the camp. I met him in the East Blue and I can see why you have an interest in him, Mahawk stated. Although my interest is in his swordsman, I thought you would want to see this. At that, Mahawk threw a bounty poster at Shanks, who looked at it with wide eyes that held pride in them. The other pirates started to look over his should and all smiled, fondly remembering the little boy they knew. This calls for a party, Shank yelled, and you're not escaping this. I want to hear about your meeting. I swear you're still a child, Mahawk whispered as a small smile graced his face. Fuchsia Village. If one looked at the little village of Fuchsia, they could see that a massive celebration was taking place. Some may ask why, but anybody from that village could see. Their own Monkey D. Luffy just got his first ever bounty poster and the village deemed that worthy of a celebration. All of the villager bar one was partying. The one was the mayor of Fuchsia Village, and even if he was saying they shouldn't be partying, those that knew him could see that he had a small smile on his face. Even the mayor was proud of the villager's young troublemaker. Going merry, Straw Hat Luffy, Sanji read aloud as the crew gathered around him, wanted dead or alive for 80 million belly. Good job, Zoro simply stated as he gave a nod to his captain. So big, Usopp whispered in disbelief. What are we going to do, you fool? Nami yelled. This means we will be hunted by the Marines, bounty hunters and even other pirates. I guess you're right, Luffy told her as he had a large smile plastered on his face, but I was only planning to go to one more island anyway. So, we're nearly ready, Zoro asked. We're going to the Grand Line. Of course, we just had to stop at Logia Town first, Luffy told the crew. The town of the beginning and the end, Sanji mused aloud. Of course you want to go there. Of course, it's where the Pirate King was born and where he died. Luffy told them, I want to see the execution platform. I hope that's not the only reason, Nami said as she looked at Luffy with a small frown. Of course, not, Luffy told her. Zoro needs some new blades and we need to buy some supplies. Nami, make sure to buy a log pose and give Zoro some money from the crew storage. A log pose? Nami questioned. It's the only way to get around in the Grand Line. Normal compasses don't work due to the magnetic fields, Luffy informed the group. Okay, and Zoro better pay it back, Nami threatened. She wouldn't let money be spent so freely. He will, Luffy told her, through the use of his blades. Fine, Nami grumbled, but we can only afford to give him 100,000 belly. I'll make do, Zoro told her as he walked away and fell asleep. One day later, the crew had just docked and split up to go their different ways. Zoro was going to find himself a sword shop. Sanji was going shopping for food. Usopp was going shopping for ammo. Nami was going to buy a log pose and then go clothes shopping, and Luffy was going to find the execution stand. Zoro was walking through the back streets of Logia Town and looking for a sword shop that would give him 2 blades that he could use for such a low price. As he was walking around, he noticed a commotion and walked over to it. A woman was getting pushed around by 2 men who were extracting revenge for their captain defeat by her boss. As Zoro began to unsheath his sword, the woman jumped into action. With 2 quick slashes of her blade, she put both men down and cuffed them. Zoro had rarely seen such finesse with a sword in the East Blue. She wasn't anywhere near Mahawk's level, but he could comfortably gauge her as one of the better sword users in the East Blue. Those thoughts left his head as soon as she took 2 steps. It seemed she was clumsy as she fell, and her glasses fell from her face. Here, Zoro stated as he handed the woman her glasses only to look at her in shock. He couldn't believe his eyes. She has dark brown eyes and wears her black hair at chin length and wears rectangular glasses with red frames. She wore a yellow buttoned-up shirt with suns covering it. Over that she wore a white trimmed, waist-length blue leather coat. She also had on blue jeans with black shoes. Overall, she looked just like his childhood friend who died, Kuina. What are you looking at? Kuina demanded as a blush adored her face. Sorry, Zoro yelled as he jumped to his feet and rushed off hoping to find a sword shop. Zoro continued to walk through the streets but struggled to get the image of that woman out of his head. She just looked so much like Kuina. As he was wailing, he noticed a sword shop and quickly entered it. He hoped that they had 2 decent swords for the money that he had. How may I help you? The man asked Fro. I need 2 swords for 100,000 belly, Zoro stated as he watched the man become disinterested straight away. The barrel over there contains swords for 50,000 belly. The man replied in a disinterested tone until he saw the blade on Zoro's waist. Can I see that blade, sir? Sure, Zoro said as he handed the blade to the man and watched him inspected it. I'll give you 200,000 belly for it, the man stated. Then you can buy 3 swords for 100,000 belly each. It's not for sale, Zoro told him. 500,000 belly then, the man said. No, it's not for sale, Zoro told him with a glare. Oh, it's you again, Kuina stated as she took notice of his blade. Wait, is that the Wado IG? Yes, Zoro simply said in an annoyed tone as he watched the woman flip through a small book's pages. That's worth 10 million belly, Toshigi told him as the shopkeeper glared at her. It's one of the 21 Owazamono grade swords. Take your shigure and get out of her, the shopkeeper barked as he threw her sword at her, only for her to catch it and fall into the shelf behind her, knocking all the swords off. Clean that up. Sorry, Toshigi yelled as she started to clean up her mess. Zoro ignored her as he began to look into the barrel for 2 swords, only for one to stand out to him. He picked it up and looked at it in curiosity. Something about this blade was wrong. You can't be selling that for 50,000 belly, Toshigi stated in surprise. That blade is the Sandai Kitetsu. I can't sell you that, the shopkeeper told Zoro. See, I thought it was wrong, Toshigi stated. It's not that, the shopkeeper said. The blade is cursed, Zoro told them much to their shock. I can feel it. You can tell, the shopkeeper muttered in shock. That blade has killed all its previous owners. Well, I guess I should test my luck against its curse, Zoro told them as he held out his left arm and threw the sword into the air. The other 2 people watched in shock as time seemed to slow down. The sword was whirling through the air as it made its descent. Gasps of shock left their mouths as the sword went around his arm without leaving a single cut and impaled itself hilt deep into the floor. My luck is better, Zoro said as he pulled the sword from the ground and looked at it. Sandai Kitetsu is a moderately curved katana with a white edge and a distinct blue hamon that has the appearance of flames. Its tsuba is golden and shaped like a rounded crossed pate. The hilt is wrapped reddish-brown, with a golden clasp around its middle and a golden kashira pommel. The sheath of the sword is deep red and continues the design of the hilt, having 2 golden clasps in short succession around its middle, and the kojiri end cap also being golden. A true swordsman, the shopkeeper muttered. Stay right there, I'll be back in a second. Why do you need 3 swords? Toshigi asked suddenly. Are you trying to be like that pirate hunter Zoro? Something like that, Zoro replied as he watched the woman. I don't like people like him, using swords for their own evil gain, Toshigi stated. It's my dream to collect all the legendary swords in the world. Then I guess you'll come after Wado IG, Zoro supposed as he looked at her. No, you're a good guy, Toshigi replied. I plan to take them from bounty hunters and pirates. Is that so? Zoro muttered with a small smile. This is the best sword I have in my shop, the shopkeeper said as he handed over a sword. It is Yubashiri and you can have both of them for free. It's not often I get to see a real swordsman anymore. The Yubashiri is one of the 50 Ryo Wazamono grade swords, Toshigi said as she read it out of her book. So you have 2 legendary swords. Zoro pulled the Yubashiri out of its sheath and looks it over. Yubashiri was a long katana with a black handle. It had a cross-shaped guard and a black lacquered sheath. The blade itself was normal in appearance and its pattern was midoriba or regular pattern. It was considered to be a very light sword. Though mostly black, the sheath and the handle both had thin yet elaborate gold designs on them. I like them, Zoro stated. Thank you for these swords. It's my pleasure, the shopkeeper stated as he watched the green-haired man leave his store. He knew that man would make a name for himself. With Sanji, so that is an elephant tuna, Sanji asked as the shopkeeper nodded at him. I'll take it. With that, Sanji paid the man and hoisted the gigantic ship over his shoulder with a small grunt. He started to make his way back to the ship when he noticed Usopp looking like he was going shopping for groceries. The long-nosed sniper now possessed a pair of sniper goggles, but that wasn't the thing that Sanji noticed. Usopp was haggling with a shopkeeper to buy rotten eggs. Let's get out of here, Sanji stated as he walked up to the sniper and started to drag him away. You can help me get this to the ship. With Nami, the orange-haired navigator was standing in a clothes store with a long pose around her wrist. She was trying on a bunch of different clothes and enjoying the compliments that she got. She ended up only buying a few of the clothes and looked outside only to ask the shopkeeper to put plastic over the clothes. The shopkeeper looked bewildered, but Nami could feel it. A storm was coming. As she walked out of the store, it slowly started to rain. "Something's wrong," Nami muttered to herself as she looked at the sky. Earlier with Luffy had realized quite quickly that he was lost. He couldn't find the execution stand no matter how much he tried. He continued to run around the town until he ran into a figure bulking with muscles arresting some pirated. "Her sir, can you help me find the execution stand?" Luffy asked as he took in the man's appearance. He is a muscular white-haired man, who was smoking 2 cigars at once. He wears a large thick white and blue specialist marine jacket which he keeps open, with greenish fur lining the neck, wrists and hem. Many cigars are strapped to the jacket, which bears the kanji for justice written on the back of it. He carries a jeet as his weapon. He also wears brown leather gloves, blue jeans with a brown belt and large military-issue brown leather boots. "Sure kid, follow the smoke," the man replied as a trail of left him. "Thank," Luffy shouted as he ran off, and the man finally looked at him. "Interesting," he thought aloud. "Captain Smoker," one of the Marines yelled, "these are the new wanted posters." "Very interesting," Smoker mused as he looked at the bounty posters sitting on top of the pile. It wasn't much later that Luffy was climbing the stand where the former pirate king was on when was executed. He reached the top and looked out with a smile. This was the last thing Gold Roger saw when he lived, and Luffy enjoyed the sight. "Hey, you get off that," a Marine yelled, only to receive a mace to the head. "It's a pleasure to see you again, Luffy," the woman stated with a seductive smile. Luffy looked down at the woman who had spoken to him before. He was sure he had seen someone who looked like her before, but he just couldn't remember. The woman who stood before him could be described as beautiful. She was slim, well-endowed, and had dark green eyes with long wavy black hair. She had a white cowboy hat on her head and a pearl necklace around her neck. She wore a bikini top and tight capri-length pants. She also had a cape-like, pink cloak with red hearts on it and wore a pair of sandals. "Who are you?" Luffy asked as he cocked his head to the side. "I don't remember seeing you before." "It must be because I lost my freckles," Olivia replied in the same seductive voice as before. "You were the first man to punch me." Luffy looked at her once again as he ignored the glares that the men around her glared and swore at him. Slowly he started to realize who this woman was. After all, there was only one woman he had fought in the East Blue, and that was Alvida. But he remembered her being a larger woman. If this woman in front of him was indeed Alvida, she had done more than freckles, she had lost a lot of weight. "Alvida?" Luffy questioned as she smiled up at him and gave a small nod. "You've definitely changed." "It's to be expected," Alvida told him. "The day you punched me, you sent me flying off to an island, and I found a wonderful fruit." "A devil fruit," Luffy stated as he watched the crowd build up. "I guess that explains the transformation." "Yes, I ate the sub no mi," Alvida replied with a smile. "It made me a smooth woman and cleansed me of those freckles." "That's not all it did," Luffy muttered as he noticed a few Marines enter the plaza. "You two freeze," one of the Marines yelled as they held up their guns. "You are hereby under arrest." "Oh, I doubt that," Alvida replied as the fountain exploded behind her. "After all we had time to set up." "Oh no," one of the entranced men yelled as he watched as piece of the fountain rush at Alvida. "It's going to hit the goddess." "What have we done?" one of the Marine yelled, his eyes now containing love hearts like the rest of the men. "Don't worry," Alvida told them with a seductive smirk. "I am a smooth woman." The men watched in fear as the fountain touched the beautiful woman and seemed to slide right off her. Luffy cocked his eyebrow at that. If she used that fruit right, she could become a beast in the blues and even during the first part of the Grand Line. But if she wasn't careful, she would lose her head before she realized that something was wrong. "Things just slide off me," Alvida told the men. "Enough talking, woman." A cloaked figure yelled as him and various other cloaked men threw the cloaks off, revealing Buggy the Clown. "Big nose," Luffy said as he stared down at the clown. Luffy wasn't stupid. As soon as he saw that the clown's first mate wasn't with him, he had activated his Kenbunshoku haki. That was where the problems had started. As soon as his haki started to detect the nearby auras, he was nearly brought to his knees. Someone was in the East Blue who wasn't supposed to be here, and he was watching him. He could feel that the man's aura had the same power behind it that Shanks had. Whoever he was, Luffy knew that he was too strong to fight. As Luffy looked in the direction of the aura, he was feeling he missed Kubiji jumping from behind him and crashing down. Buggy's first mate had trapped Luffy and placed the straw-hatted man in shackles as he was forced to hear Buggy chuckle as he jumped up to the execution stand. "Not so cocky now, are you?" Buggy asked with a dark smile. "I can't wait to take your head off." "I doubt you could," Luffy told him truthfully. "You don't have the power that you used to possess." "Shut up, you brat," Buggy yelled as he glared at the young man who he thought a fool. "A pirate like you can never be the Pirate King." The last two words escaped the red-nosed pirate accidentally, and he regretted it as soon as he spoke them. The entire plaza had gone quiet and all eyes were locked onto him and Luffy. He should have never spoke those words here in all place. He knew better than that. "I'm going to take your head off," Buggy whispered to Luffy, "now let's put on a show." Marine Base, Captain Smoker. A Marine crashed through the door to his office. Buggy the Clown and Straw Hat Luffy had been found in the plaza. "What are they doing?" Smoker asked as he thought back to his earlier meeting with the young straw-hatted pirate. "Buggy is about to execute Straw Hat," the Marine replied as Smoker's eyes widened.
"I have to see this," Smoker stated as he left the room and headed for a roof near the plaza with Marines following him.
With Zoro, the green-haired swordsman couldn't believe that his crew had the audacity to move the ship from where it first was. He had retracted his steps only to find the docks and no going merry. As the swordsman walked back through the town, he felt that something was wrong. Something was happening that could affect him.
"Did you hear about the execution that's about to take place?" Zoro heard a man ask another. "Supposable Buggy the Clown is about to execute that new rookie Straw Hat Luffy."
"Luffy," Zoro yelled as he ran toward where he realized a crowd was forming. "How did this happen?" "With Sanji, Usopp. Does something seem off to you?" Sanji asked as he watched the townspeople run in one direction. "They're all going towards the execution platform," Usopp replied. "I'm guessing something is going on."
"Luffy," the two yelled at the same time. "Usopp, take this to Mary and make sure that she is ready to sail," Sanji ordered as he dropped his end of the elephant tuna and dashed towards the plaza.
With Luffy had blocked Buggy out once he realized that he wasn't in immediate danger. Buggy was giving a speech that would be remembered by the townspeople, or so he stated. That wasn't what held Luffy's attention right now. He was still focused on that strange aura that was close to them. The aura was somewhat familiar to him. Something about it reminded him of someone. That thought left him as he felt Zoro and Sanji enter the plaza, and he smiled down at the two. He was watching them cut and kick through Buggy's men. Zoro's attacks were fierce. He was only attacking with Wado Ig as he wasn't ready to draw his new swords, but that didn't stop him from causing damage to Buggy's men. He was proving that he lived up to his title as the best swordsman in the East Blue as he was slowly working towards Luffy. He had to save his captain, and he would make sure that these weaklings would not get in his ways. Sanji's attacks were more calculated as he bounced around and knocked out each of the pirates that were stopping him from getting to Luffy. He quickly realized that the pace him and Zoro were setting wasn't quick enough and that they needed to hurry up or they'd see their captain's head leave his shoulders. Giahahaha, watch as Straw Hat Luffy's life ends today. Buggy yelled as he lifted his sword.
"I'm sorry Zoro, Sanji, Nami and Usopp, it looks like I'm dead," Luffy yelled as all the action in the plaza stopped. "Look after the other two and fulfill your dreams."
As the last words left Luffy's mouth, he felt it, a spike in the atmosphere and a noise that rushed towards him. He quickly coated his whole body with Busashoku haki, knowing that he could only hold it for a few seconds as he smiled. As Buggy's sword got closer to Luffy's neck, his eyes widened. Sparks flew from his sword and the stand was struck by lightning, knocking the three men standing off it to the ground. Smoker watched from a nearby rooftop as the straw hat fell to the floor. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. That smile reminded him of a man whose legacy he wanted to protect. The former Pirate King had smiled like that during his execution and had died with that smile on his face. If the brat managed to escape him, he knew that he would have to know more about him and what possessed him to smile during his own execution. Zoro and Sanji stood together in shock as the lightning hit the stand. Ttain hit them hard and fast, but they still couldn't comprehend them. They watched as the straw hat hit the ground after the loud crash that was the execution standing doing the same. They watched as the smoke started to clear and the sound of footsteps was heard. Luffy surprised everybody as he walked out of the smoke with only a few light burn on his body and no shirt. He walked forwards and picked up his straw hat and placed it on his head with a large smile as he looked at the crowd staring at him in disbelief. "I'm going to be the one who becomes the Pirate King," Luffy yelled as his smile got bigger. "Now Sanji, Zoro, let's go. Stop the pirates from leaving," Smoker ordered as Marines flooded the plaza, and he jumped down to join them. He was too late to stop the three straw hats from leaving the plaza as he watched them knock out any of the Marines that approached them. He quickly focused on Buggy and his crew with the rest of the Marines, and it wasn't long before they were in the plaza, crowed together with a sea stone net covering them. "Get my bike," Smoker ordered as he watched the direction that the straw hats fled in. "No pirate escapes this island." "Yes sir," one of the Marines replied quickly. "With Nami and Usopp." Usopp had met back up with Nami as the two of them headed back to the Going Merry, and much to his dismay he now had her bags in one hand and the elephant tuna hanging over his other shoulder. As they arrived at the docks that the Going Merry was, Usopp heard the groan that Nami let out as they saw a strange man sitting on a lion near their ship. "We should just burn it," Moji stated as he looked at the strange pirate ship. "That should be good enough for our captain." "Namari Boshi," Usopp screamed as he shot the little lead pellet out of his slingshot. Usopp let a small smile appear on his face as the pellet impacted with the back of Moji's head and caused him to fall off of his lion. Usopp jumped in joy as the strange man fell onto his face, but that joy quickly disappeared as the lion rounded on him. Usopp jumped back in fear as Richie leapt towards him and slammed his paw into the ground where he stood. Usopp's eyes widened in fright as the ground beneath Richie's paw shattered into pieces. He looked for Nami but was shocked to see that she had already snuck past the lion and was hitting Moji over the head to make sure he would stay down. So, with only one option left, Usopp reached into his pouch for his ultimate weapon against this enemy, an egg. Shinsen Tamago Boshi, Usopp yelled in a confident voice as he shot a fresh egg near the lion. Usopp smiled as he pulled out a small hammer from his weapon pouch as the lion began to lick up the egg from the floor. Richie was too busy to notice that while he had been enjoying the egg that the two members of the Straw Hat Pirates near the ship had snuck up on him. Usopp lifted his hammer above his head and screamed, "Usopp hammer," as he brought it down onto the lion's head while Nami used her pole to hit the lion in the head as well. The pair was shocked to see the lion slump to the ground in defeat. "Quick, get on the ship and get it ready," Nami ordered as she looked to the sky, "a storm's coming." With Zoro, Sanji and Luffy, the three Straw Hats had quickly fled the center of the town and Sanji was leading the group back to the Going Merry. They hadn't received any resistance since they had left the Marines with Buggy's group and they hoped they could reach the Going Merry soon and head into the ground line. The trio came to a halt around the next corner as a small group of Marines stood in front of them with a female that Zoro recognized as Tashigi. "Roronoa Zoro," Tashigi yelled and hated as she looked at the green-haired swordsman, "I'm going to take those swords out of your evil hands." "You two go on ahead," Zoro told Sanji and Luffy as he unsheathed Wado Ig. "This won't take long." "I'll see you there then," Luffy replied as he rushed past the Marines with Sanji. "You tricked me," Tashigi screamed as she stared at Zoro, "you made me help you with those swords." "I didn't ask you to help me with anything," Zoro replied dismissively, "now get out of my way." "No," Tashigi yelled as she rushed forwards. Zoro brought his sword up and blocked the strike with ease. He pushed her back as she kicked the woman in the stomach, sending her flying backwards. A small smile made its way onto his face as she got up and charged back at him. He deflected her strikes as watched her movements and in a quick movement he brought his sword up and knocked Tashigi's out of her hands and into the air. She watched as the sword came back down and embedded itself into the ground as Zoro stabbed his sword into the wall beside her. "Get stronger," Zoro muttered to her as he pulled his blade out and turned towards where Luffy and Sanji were heading, "then find me again." "Why didn't you kill me?" Tashigi asked with tears in her eyes, "is it because I'm a woman?" "No," Zoro yelled, "you just remind me of someone I used to know." "So that's why you won't kill me?" Tashigi yelled, "I will get those swords." "Not if you don't get stronger and keep saying those things," Zoro yelled as he turned to her. "What things?" she asked as she looked at Zoro. "That I wouldn't kill you or that you're weaker because you're a woman," Zoro told her. "That's what she used to say, and you have her face." "Or maybe she had my face," Tashigi yelled at the man as he grunted and ran away. With Luffy and Sanji, the pair had only recently left Zoro behind when they were met with Smoker on his motorbike looking at the pair with a glint in his eye. He quickly jumped off it and stood in front of them ready for the pair to attack. "Sanji, go on ahead," Luffy ordered as his eyes hardened. "This is a battle you're not ready for yet." "Okay, Captain," Sanji replied as he dashed forwards. "Not so fast," Smoker yelled as his arm shot out in smoke and attempted to grab Sanji. "Stop," Luffy told him as he appeared in front of his arm and grabbed it. "How?" Smoker asked in shock as he noticed the black sheen that had appeared on Luffy's hand. "This is between us," Luffy told him as he lifted his leg and kicked the Marine captain in the ribs, causing him to kneel over. "How can you do that?" Smoker asked in pain. It had been years since he had last been hit. "Complacent logias never make it far," Luffy told him, remembering what Shanks had told him, "and you seem to rely on these powers." Luffy looked down at Smoker as he used his Busashoku haki to coat his arm in black. He reared it back and brought it down on Smoker's head, quickly knocking him out. Luffy shook his head in disappointment as he looked down on the Marine captain. This man was easily the strongest person that was currently in the East Blue outside of him, but he had gotten complacent. He had believed he could take down everyone with his fruit. As Luffy began to make his way back to the ship, he felt the aura from before. His Kenbunshoku haki had alerted him to the powerful presence of the man. He quickly turned around and noticed that the man was looking down on him. The man standing on the roof was wearing a long green coat, and he could only make out a tattoo on the left side of his face that was colored dark red as well as a smile on his face. "Pirate King, huh?" the man seemingly asked. "I can live with that, now get going. The wind is in your favor." Luffy looked at the man in confusion as he seemingly disappeared, much to the Straw Hat wearing boy's shock. Luffy heard Zoro coming and turned around, putting the man out of his head for the moment as he joined Zoro in running towards the ship. It didn't take them long to catch up to Sanji and them arrive at the ship. The three smiled as they jumped aboard as Usopp let the sails down and the Going Merry began to set out for the entrance to the Grand Line. With Smoker and Tashigi, "Get ready to set out," Smoker ordered the sword-wielding woman who had just caught up to him. "We're going after them." "But we have orders to stay here," Tashigi argued. "We have to listen to Headquarteker," shouted, much to Tashigi's shock. "They aren't getting away." "I guess we can," Tashigi muttered. "I have to get those swords back." "Then let's go," Smoker said as he began walking back to his station to collect his things. We have to wait until tomorrow, Tashigi told him. Someone tampered with our ships. Fuck, Smoker stated before a marine came running up to him. Sir, the buggy pirates escaped with the woman. The marine told him, much to Smoker's ire. With the Straw Hats, now that we're about to enter the Grand Line, I think it's time for you all to begin training. Luffy told them all from the deck. I'm going to teach you about haki. That's what you use, Zoro stated. It's how your blows get more powerful. Yes, now I will tell you about haki, Luffy stated. Haki is a power that lies dormant in all the world's creatures. Presence, fighting spirit and intimidation. It is not different from the things that humans can naturally sense, such as these. The act of not doubting. That is strength. What? Usopp muttered as he looked at Luffy, who only laughed at him. It's just something that someone once told me. No, there is 3 different types of haki, Luffy told them. Kenbunshoku haki, which grants users a 6th sense of the world around them and limited precognitive abilities. Busashoku haki, which allows the user to use their spirit as armor to defend against attacks or to make their own attacks more potent. And Haoshoku haki, a rare type of haki only 1 in a million can use, which grants the user the ability to overpower the will of others. Sounds interesting, Zoro muttered. What will we be starting with? You and Sanji will be starting with Busashoku haki as you are our frontline fighters, Luffy told him, and you two will begin training in Kenbunshoku haki. Let's begin, Luffy yelled with a large smile. One day later. The storm had guided the Going Merry towards their destination when Luffy noticed the lighthouse that was in sight. With a large smile he called his crew to him as they had nearly reached his destination, the start of the Grand Line. We're about to enter the most dangerous sea in the world, Luffy told them as he smiled. I thought it was only right for us to announce our dreams before we enter it. Fine, Zoro muttered as he brought his leg up above a barrel and slammed it down on it. I'm going to become the world's greatest swordsman. I'm going to find the all blue, Sanji yelled as he did the same as Zoro. I'm going to draw a map of the world, Nami yelled, doing what the 2 crew members did before her. I'm going to become a brave warrior of the sea, Usopp yelled as he followed what his crew did. I'm going to become the Pirate King, Luffy announced as he slammed his foot down onto the barrel with a large smile. Here we are, Luffy whispered as he sat on the figurehead of the Going Merry. This is where the real fighting starts. It's amazing, Usopp shouted as he looked at the giant mountain in front of him. That's Reverse Mountain, Nami told the crew. This is the entrance to the Grand Line. Where's the entrance? Usopp asked in sudden fear as he searched the mountain. It's there, Luffy stated as he noticed a small gap in the mountain. We ride the waves up and into the Grand Line. Up the mountain? Usopp asked in disbelief. How could we go up the mountain? The currents will take us, Nami told them as the entrance came into sight. That's where we sail. Don't work against the currents, Luffy told them, work with them. Luffy smiled as the tales that Shanks had told him came to life. This is as far as he let the red-haired pirate go with details, and he was regretting it a bit, but Shanks was right. Not knowing how to get to the entrance could have caused his ship damage or his crew's death. He watched as Nami navigated the Going Merry into the entrance and fell backwards off the figurehead as the ship began to ascend. He could feel the wind rushing by him as he clutched his hat and stood up. He could see and feel the clouds as he went through them and the ship reached the top. He couldn't help but laugh as he heard Usopp scream as the Going Merry began to descend Reverse Mountain. He loved the feeling of the speed that their little ship was generating and only stopped smiling when he heard a loud noise. He nearly laughed as Zoro shot to his feet and placed his hands on his sword and Sanji rushed in front of Nami, and he would have laughed if he didn't see the giant mountain-like shadow blocking their path. What the hell is that? Usopp screamed in terror as he ran around the deck. We're going to die. What do I do? Luffy muttered to himself as they got closer to the obstacle. It's a whale, Usopp yelled in shock. Luffy frowned as he looked at the giant whale in front of him. He couldn't use his haki as the whale wouldn't go underwater quick enough. The straw-hatted boy lifted his leg and began to unleash a barrage of blunted Rankyaku that slowed the speed of the Going Merry down. He let out a sigh of relief as the ship slowed to a stop just in front of the giant whale. As he started to smile once again, the ship shot forward and collided with the whale, breaking the figurehead on the ship. It didn't notice, Usopp shouted in joy. We're safe, Nami yelled as she jumped around the deck. You broke the figurehead, Luffy screamed, breaking the other two out of their joy. What are you doing? Nami shouted. Nami and Usopp watched with their jaws hitting the floor as their captain took to the sky and stood in front of the whale. Their shouts wouldn't break the man out of his current mindset as he reared his fist back and slammed it into the whale, pushing it backwards slightly. They paled as the whale's eyes moved down and locked onto the Going Merry as it opened its mouth, sucking it in. Oh no, Luffy shouted in shock as he watched the whale swallow his crew. What do I do? Luffy looked down on the whale and noticed a silver hatch on top of the whale's body. He quickly landed on it and ran across its body, reaching the hatch. He only just entered it as the water rose above the whale. The boy closed the hatch and was confused as he took note of the pathways built into the way. With the rest of the crew, where the hell are we? Usopp screamed as he looked around and noticed the blue sky and bird flying. I thought we were swallowed. We were, Nami whispered in disbelief. Hopefully Luffy can find us. I'm sure he will, Zoro said as he looked around. We're still in the whale, Sanji told them as he placed a cigarette in his mouth. The sky's painted and I guess it was done by whoever lives there. What do we do? Usopp asked. It's not like we can get out easily. Maybe he will tell us, Sanji said as he puffed out smoke. We may as well ask. As the crew began sailing toward the small island, a giant squid emerged from the water next to them. Zoro began to unsheath Wado Ike. A harpoon shot out of the house and impaled the squid, shocking the crew. As they turned to the house, they noticed an old man pulling in the squid and completely disregarding them. The man has a rather stocky and muscular body, is bald on the top of his head, but with white hair with yellow flower petal-like things that have purple near the bottom of them, and a white beard that splits in two parts. His lower lip is noticeably larger than his upper. He wears a pink shirt with a yellow and green stripe with purple circles in the yellow along with bluish-gray shorts with sandals. He also wears glasses, a seaweed necklace, 3 gold bracelets, and a green gem bracelet on his left wrist. He also has a scar on his left arm. Who are you? Zoro asked without taking his hand off his sword. It's polite for you to tell me who you are first, the man replied. Alright then, Zoro started. I'm Crocus, my blood type is, Crocus started. What are you doing? Zoro yelled as he prepared to jump over the side of the ship. Let me handle this, Sanji stated as he placed his hand on Zoro's shoulder. Where are we? Sanji asked the man. Be careful, we wouldn't want any trouble, the Crocus told them. What if we start some? Usopp asked with his knees trembling. I'll die, Crocus replied as the Straw Hat's sweat dropped. Let's kill him, Sanji yelled as he prepared to jump over the side of the ship before a noise stopped him. With Luffy was running through the passages trying to find his crew. His Kenbunshoku haki was leading him back towards his crew, but the passages were confusing. As he was running, he heard the whale once again and then felling forwards as the whale charged. As he fell, he collided with 2 people and carried them until he hit a hatch and broke through it. As he looked down, he noticed a green sea and quickly held the 2 people close to his chest. Geppo, Luffy whispered as he began to walk on the air. Luffy, he heard Usopp shout in relief, we thought we lost you. Don't do anything like that again. Nami shouted as Luffy arrived on the deck and dropped the people in his arms. Who are they? I don't know, Luffy replied as he scratched his head. I sort of fell into them. The old man jumped into the water. Sanji told them, wonder what he's doing. Now's the time, the woman that Luffy caught whispered. It's time to kill this whale, the strange-looking man yelled as he pulled out a bazooka and prepared to fire it. Be quiet, Luffy shouted as he slammed his fist into the mon's head and knocked him out. Now how do we get out? I'll help you with that, Crocus stated as he appeared back on his island. Follow me and keep an eye on them. No problem, Nami muttered as she watched love hearts appear in Sanji's eyes. Who are you people? Usopp asked as he watched Sanji float around the woman. I'm Mr. 9 and this is Miss Wednesday, the man replied as he knew that the straw-hatted boy was strong enough to coerce it out of them. Mr. 9 is a young man who wears a golden crown on top of his red hair and has his agent number written on his cheeks. He wears a green suit with white lace along with a ruffled red scarf. Miss Wednesday is a young woman with long wavy light blue hair. She had it pulled back as a ponytail in a very high position. She had brown eyes and has a slender body. She wore a green jacket with white fur covering the collar and had a striped blue singlet on underneath it. She also had on a pair of white jean shorts and white high-heel boots. It didn't take the crew long to get out of the whale as they followed the old man and were soon standing on land. Luffy took in the whale. The whale is an extremely large blue whale, of comparable or greater size than the sea kings in the calm belt. He has many scars across his head and his eye alone is several times larger than the Going Merry. He has short fins, and a tail that splits in 2. That's Laboon, Crocus told Luffy with the sad scars on his head from slamming it into Reverse Mountain. Why would he do that? Luffy asked in shock. Many years ago, when Laboon was much smaller, he befriended a pirate crew in the West Blue. He followed them into the Grand Line much to their shock and they convinced him to stay here, Crocus explained. They promised that they would come back for him and he has been waiting for them. I'm guessing they died, Nami said with a sad look in her eyes. Worse, I heard that they fled the Grand Line and have never come back for him, Crocus told the group. Since then he had been slamming his head into the mountain in hope of getting back to his crew. He knows, doesn't he? Luffy muttered as he looked at Laboon. I told him the truth years ago, Crocus stated, he just doesn't want to believe it. Geppo, Luffy said as he took to the skies, stop that Laboon. The giant whale looked at Luffy as the pirate bounced through the air. He let out a large sound and charged at him. Luffy smiled as he reared his head back and punched the whale, causing it to stop. He watched as Laboon charged him once again only to be hit backward. This whale had some fight in him. How about we call it a draw, Luffy told Laboon. When I find Raftel, I'll come back here, and he'll fight again. Laboon stared at the straw-hatted pirate as he dropped to the ground and took paint off of his ship. Within moments, Laboon had gained a badly drawn copy of the Straw Hat's Jolly Roger across his scars. Now if you slam your head into the mountain it will wash away, Luffy told him, "You're now considered one of us." Laboon seemed to smile at Luffy as the boy landed on the ground and watched Zoro throw the two strangers from inside the whale into the sea. Crocus was smiling at him as he landed on the ground, and he could tell her had made the flower-haired man happy. "Brat, do you know that normal compasses don't work on the Grand Line?" Crocus asked him as he started to measure the brat's worth. "A friend told me long ago that I needed a log pose, and we got one before we entered the Grand Line." Luffy told them as Nami showed the man the log pose. "We're ready for these seas." "It sounds like you are," Crocus laughed. "Now where is your first destination?" "Can you help me and my friend get back to our home island?" Miss Wednesday intruded. "It seems our pose was broken."
Sure, Luffy replied to them, as long as you promise not to come back here.
"We promise," Mr. Nine told him. "We need to get to Whiskey Peak." "Then to Whiskey Peak it is," Luffy yelled. "See ya, old man, see ya, Laboon." Crocus couldn't help but smile at the young boy as an image overtook the one in front of him. A familiar man with a familiar smile stood in place of the young straw-hatted pirate, a man with the same straw hat and dark hair. "You're right, Shank," Crocus muttered to himself. "That boy has a strange atmosphere, and it seems he has a crew that has the same presence. I hope you watch them." "Roger. What are you all so tired about?" Zoro asked as he woke up from his nap to see most of his crew breathing deeply as well as the two strangers they picked up. "You'd know if you were awake," Nami screamed as she somehow gained shark-like teeth. "Bloody witch," Zoro muttered as he started to stretch. "How about we get some training in Luffy?" "May as well," Luffy replied as he smiled as his swordsman, "Sanji, get ready as well. Nami, focus on the pose. Usopp, see if you can hit us." "Aye, Captain," Sanji drawled as he pulled his cigarette from his mouth. "Right, and if I hit you I'm Captain," Usopp yelled as he jumped to his feet and pulled out his slingshot. Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine watched in shock as the Straw Hats fell into their training. They watched as the long-nosed sniper shot lead pellets from a slingshot at his captain only for him to seem to float around them. The blonde-haired chef jumped straight at the green-haired swordsman and began to dish out kicks. The swordsman began to block them with a white-colored sheath and jumped backward before he drew his blade and charged at his captain. The straw-hatted man blocked the sword with his own sheathed blade without even looking towards him, and then ducked the chef's kicks. "I can see an island," Nami yelled as she interrupted the island. "I guess this is goodbye then," Miss Wednesday told them. "This is as far as you need to take us," Mr. Nine said as he jumped overboard with Miss Wednesday and began to swim away. "They're weird," Luffy said as he watched them swim towards the island. "Just ignore them," Zoro told him as he stood up. "We're about to make port and it seems we have people waiting for us." "I guess the entire population is there," Luffy replied with a smile. Soon the Going Merry pulled into the port and the crew on board were shocked by the response from the citizens. They expected to be told to go away but were welcomed with cheers and promises of a celebration. They could hear many of the people congratulating them for reaching their first island, and two of those people stood out. The man at the front, who seemed to be the mayor, and the nun that stood nearby. The mayor is a tall man with a small red nose and has blonde hair in a style that resembles a powdered wig. He dressed like a gentleman and had the number 8 at the tips of his collar. The curls in his hair also look similar to the number 8. The nun is a tall, muscular woman with dark skin and pink hair pulled into short twin tails. She wore the typical nun's costume that hid some of her muscles. Am I, the mayor sung. "I am Igarapoy, the mayor of Whiskey Peak, and I welcome you to a party held in celebration for your accomplishments." "Can I ask when the log pose resets?" Nami asked. "Don't worry about that," the nun said. "Let's go inside and get the party started." "Something's not right," Nami whispered as she was whisked away with her crew and into the town center. Several hours later, the townspeople stood around the party in shock. The crew that they had invited in had proved to be a lively one that was currently running their stocks down. Their captain was eating and drinking his fill. His first mate and navigator were currently drinking the villages under the table. The sniper was flirting and telling what seemed to be truths but could only be perceived as lies, and their cook was flirting with every woman at the time. The mayor had slowly been strengthening the booze that the pirates were drinking, but for some reason it wasn't working at all. It was soon after that the pirates started to drop off. The long-nosed sniper was the first to pass out from overdrinking, then the chef. The finally 3 passed out at similar times. Nami dozed off and then Zoro after her, and finally the captain of the Straw Hats slumped in his seat. As the mayor watched them pass out with a sinister smirk on his face, he quickly ordered the townspeople outside. When the group walked out of the town center, they were met by Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine. "Have you seen his bounty?" Mr. Nine asked as he held out a piece of paper. "We won't need the whale after we get him." "Let's just hope he doesn't wake up," Miss Wednesday stated as she looked at the group. "Are you sure this bounty is for the straw-hatted one?" the nun asked. 80 million belly for such a weak-looking man." "The swordsman looks like the stronger one," the mayor said. "Don't underestimate him," Miss Wednesday warned. "We've seen them train." "She's right," a voice told them from the town hall roof. "I'm guessing you're from Baroque Works." "How did he escape?" the mayor yelled in shock. "Your men weren't strong enough." Zoro replied with a bloodthirsty smile. How do you know about Baroque works? Miss Wednesday asked. A few years ago, someone from that agency called Mr. Seven tried to recruit me, Zoro told them. I told him that I'd only join if he made me boss and he attacked me, so I killed him. It didn't take long to figure out who you lot were when you told me your names. Get him? The mayor bellowed. I guess this is the perfect time for me to use Yubashiri, Zoro said as he unsheathed the sword and disappeared. Where'd he go? The nun asked in shock. Behind you, Zoro whispered as he rested his sword on the mayor's shoulder. The mayor turned white as he realized what was going to happen. He quickly jumped away for the sword-wielding pirate and strings fell from his hair. With a quick tug, small cannons emerged from the curls in his hair and began to shoot bullets where Zoro stood. Only the green-haired pirate wasn't there anymore. He had disappeared into the crowd and all the mayor was doing was shooting his own men. Zoro had appeared in between a group of and began to test his newly bought blade. He immediately realized that it was easy to use and how its lightweight allowed fast actions and reflexes, while maintaining its sharpness for cutting power. He was quickly cutting through his opponents and leaving them just hanging onto consciousness. He had yet to kill any of his opponents as the easy sword allowed him to cut as shallow as he wanted. Realizing that he wasn't going to have any problems with Yubashiri, Zoro sheathed the sword. As the bounty hunters began to close in on him, he unsheathed Sandai Kitetsu and swung the cursed blade in a circle, cutting through the bounty hunters that surrounded him. As the bounty hunters slumped to the floor, cut through the stomach. That was the moment that Zoro realized that Sandai Kitetsu appears to be a problem child. Notably, it seemed to be bloodthirsty and wanted to make his arm slash without his direction. He had to focus on using this sword as he dashed through a building and cut through the wall. He quickly jumped through the hole he created and started to cut down the agents on the other side of the wall. It wasn't long before the green-haired swordsman had cut down the remaining agents on the island, bar the mayor, the nun, Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday. As he leapt through another building, he felt a strong hand grab him by the head and pin him to the ground. Miss Monday has him, Miss Wednesday yelled in happiness. The nun had lost the clothing she was wearing and was now wearing a short dress with a magenta and white diamond pattern and 3 green flowers. She had her large hand covering Zoro's face and pinning him to the ground. Her veins were building, and the agents were shocked to see that she was struggling to keep the man down. They each realized a shocked gasp as Zoro single-handedly overpowered the woman and gripped her head with his right hand. He began to squeeze, and blood started leaking from her mouth as she let out a pained scream before the swordsman dropped her. Mr. 8, Mr. 9, we have to work together, Miss Wednesday yelled as a yellow duck appeared by her side. It'll be bye baby for him, Mr. 9 yelled as he pulled out 2 metal bats and charged forwards. Zoro smirked at the man as he sheathed Sandai Kitetsu and unsheathed Wado Ig. He watched as the agent got close to him with the 2 bats. He ducked under the first swing and spun around to block the second. He pushed the man back and charged at him. You're finished, Zoro muttered as his blade cut Mr. 9 across the chest and the man fell to the ground. Mr. 9 inches, Miss Wednesday yelled as she pulled open her dress to reveal a spiral shirt. Watch this. Zoro watched the woman as she began to spin around 2 peacock slashes. The swordsman nearly fell to the floor as he watched the woman order her duck to charge him, only for it to run off in the other direction as she yelled at it. The swordsman had to make a quick dive to the side as bullets ran through where he had been standing. Zoro turned around as he placed Wado Ig in his mouth and drew his other 2 blades. He took his bandana from his arm and tied it over his head as he started at the bounty hunter in front of him. He watched as the small cannon seemed to reload and shot more bullets at him. He quickly jumped to the side and dodged the bullets. As soon as he landed, he charged Mr. 8 and slashed his 2 blades at the man as blood began to seep from his suit. Watch out, Zoro, was heard as the Straw Hat Captain jumped behind his swordsman and caught a bat that was swung at his head. There's more here. The moment that the words left Luffy's mouth, he picked Zoro up and jumped away from where they were standing. The ground detonated, and the 2 Baroque Works agents were caught in the fire. Luffy looked up and took in the sight of the newcomers. One was a man and the other a woman. The man is a tall, dark-skinned man with black hair and short, spiky dreadlocks. He wears a brown trench coat with a pink cravat and a pair of sunglasses. The woman has short blonde hair and dark eyes. She wears a yellow and orange hat, as well as a yellow dress with a lemon-like pattern, lemon earrings, and white high-heeled shoes. Thank God you're here, Mr. 5, Miss Valentine, Miss Wednesday exclaimed as she returned to the fight. Were you sent to help us with these pirates? Kya-ha-ha-ha, do you really believe we'd be sent here to help the likes of you, Miss Valentine said. Then what are you here for, Miss Wednesday asked in shock. Someone has been spying on our organization, Mr. 5 replied. We found out who they were, and we are here to exterminate them, although it was a shock to find out one of them was nobility. I just act like a king, Mr. 9 yelled in desperation. I'm not a spy. We know you're not, Mr. 5 scoffed. Mr. 0 sent us to kill Igaram of the Alabasta Royal Guard and Princess Nefeltari Vivi of Alabasta for finding out his secret. What? Miss Monday whispered from nearby as she forced herself to her feet. You're going to try and kill my partner. Not try, Mr. 5 replied as he began to pick his nose. Mr. 8, Miss Wednesday, run, Mr. 9 yelled as he stood in front of the two with Miss Monday standing beside him. We'll hold them off. How cute, Miss Valentine yelled as she jumped into the air. Take this. Zoro and Luffy watched as the blonde woman took to the air and plummeted down to the earth. She landed on Mr. 9 and pushed the both of them through the ground. They watched as Mr. 5 shot a small booger at Miss Monday and on contact it exploded, sending her flying back and knocking her out against a building. Help us, the man now revealed to be Igaram pleaded as he held Luffy's shorts. Protect the princess. Luffy, Zoro, the boys heard from the rooftop. If she's a princess that means she has money. Nami, Luffy sighed as he looked at the woman carrying a sack. Fine, this should stop an argument. Hey, you two, Zoro yelled. We're going to have to stop you from hurting this woman. Kya ha ha ha, as if two pirates like you can beat us, Miss Valentine laughed as she jumped into the air. I ate the kilo no mi. It always me to change my weight at will, so take this, 10,000 kilo press. Zoro watched as the woman dropped straight towards. He held out Yubashiri and stepped to the side. Miss Valentine dropped next to the Straw Hat swordsman and he slashed her across the chest, causing her to bleed through her clothes and pass out. Mr. 5 watched in shock as his partner was easily dispatched. As he watched her fall to the ground, he began to feel a sharp pain in his stomach. He looked down only to realize that the straw-hatted boy was in front of him with his fist embedded in Mr. 5's gut. The final Baroque Works agent's eyes rolled to the back of his head as he collapsed. Now, let's find out what those other two did, Luffy told Zoro as they began walking back to the middle of the crowd. It wasn't long before they found Igaram, Vivi and Nami all together near the town hall. Nami was standing over the pair with belly-like eyes as she started to make demands of payment for saving the princess. Nami, let's hear her out first, Luffy ordered as he looked at Vivi. So what's the situation? Vivi began to explain what was currently happening in Alabasta, starting from the moment the dance powder was found and the blame was placed on the king. This led to a rebellion as Alabasta was in a drought and the rebels believed that the king was behind it. Vivi and Igaram found out about a secret agency that was helping fuel the rebellion. The two acted like spies and worked their way up the ranks before they found out the identity of Baroque Works' boss. Who is it? Luffy asked with sad eyes. I can't tell you, Vivi told them. If I do you'll be killed. Then don't tell us, Nami pleaded. You'd be better off not knowing that Mr. Zero is Sir Crocodile, Vivi replied before throwing her hands over her mouth. You idiot, Nami yelled in shock. The Shichibukai, Luffy asked as his eyes turned to stars. What have I done? Vivi cried. Now you'll be with us on the hit list. Not if we leave now, Nami replied as she turned around before seeing a strange sight. In front of her, first was a large black feathered vulture, with white feathers toward the neck. Her skin is pink, and her beak is a light yellow. She wears a yellow aviator cap dotted with red flowers, and black goggles. The other creature is a small, brown-furred otter with white fur around his snout. He wears a long-sleeved, light blue coat with purple dots, as well as black sunglasses. The unluckies, Miss Friday and Mr. 13 Inches, Vivi exclaimed in shock. Oh, they're good pictures, Nami told them as she noticed the pictures the pair had drawn. Okay, looks like we're helping. Good, Igaram told them. Go get your crewmates and we'll meet by your ship. Luffy and Zoro walked into the town center to see the sleeping forms of Usopp and Sanji. Zoro kicked the cook as Luffy woke up Usopp and told him to head to the ship. He told Sanji the same as the man was kicking Zoro's sheathed blades. The four then headed towards where they left their ship. The crew were shocked when they arrived at the ship to notice Igaram dressed up as Vivi. I'll act as the decoy, Igaram told them. You will set out with Vivi and I'll head on the normal path to Alabasta. Please don't leave me, Vivi pleaded. Come with us. I'll be fine, princess, Igaram replied as he walked towards his ship. I'll see you at Alabasta. Fine, Vivi replied, visibly upset. Just make sure you make it back. Goodbye, princess, Igaram told her as he got on his ship. Vivi wiped the tears from her eyes as she watched her guardian leave. She would have to rely on these pirates until she met back up with Igaram. She watched as the ship left the dock and was on its way to sea before an explosion erupted, taking out the ship and Igaram. Igaram, Vivi yelled in shock. Shit, Luffy yelled, get on the ship. Where's Karu? Vivi yelled as Sanji picked her up and jumped on deck. He's already on board, Zoro told her as he pointed to the giant yellow duck. Let's go, Nami yelled as the sail unfurled. The crew and Vivi slowly left the dock as Igaram's ship lighted up the night. Nami had already informed them that the log pose had set and was ready to go. The ship slowly made its way away from the dock and towards the open sea. Watch out for the shallows, a female's voice warned them. Thanks, Nami replied. Wait, who are you? Nami jumped. Awahe looked at the intruder on the Going Merry. The woman is tall and slender, yet athletic with shoulder-length black hair. She has eyes with dark, wide pupils. She also has a long, thin, and defined nose. Her skin tone is a slightly darker tan. And has very long limbs. She wears a purple cowgirl hat, a short purple skirt and a revealing purple top with purple cowgirl boots. Miss All Sunday. Vivi yelled in shock. Princess, Miss All Sunday replied with a smirk, I'm sorry about your friend. You did this, Vivi yelled, you're the reason all this happened. Of course, I am, Miss All Sunday replied, I was the one who led you to Mr. Zero and I was also the one who told him that you found out. What are you doing here? Luffy asked as he stared at the woman. You're on course for Little Garden. Miss All Sunday told them as she threw Luffy an eternal pose, that is an eternal pose to Nanamana Island. Why? Vivi asked in shock, why are you doing this? Little Garden will be your death, Miss All Sunday replied with a small smirk. I won't let you decide my course, Luffy yelled as he shattered the external pose. Get off my ship, of course, Captain, Robin replied as she began to sweat. Just remember Little Garden doesn't resemble its name. The crew watched as the slender woman jumped off their ship and landed on a turtle's back. The turtle began to swim away from the Going Merry as Luffy watched it with hard eyes. They were now in the open sea, but something seemed off about that woman.